2, 1. Significantly fragmented silicon is indistinguishable from magic.
Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Hopefully without horrendous technical issues this week.
Yes.
I mean, and we're starting relatively on time. Like it's a couple minutes past past 9 o'clock, but you know,
better than half an hour.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like cutting an entire segment of the show because. Oh shit, technical problems robbed us of broadcast time.
Oh shit, anyway, Rome is burning.
Yeah, I'm like, so is your hard drive apparently.
No, my drivers, all of my drivers.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm your host Adam, and joining me are the usual rogues gallery of Petty Fan.
Woo!
Ogre.
I'm the Joker, but from the cartoon, so I'm actually tolerable and likable.
Twilight.
Aye.
And Gallix.
Hello.
Right. Let's see. Who to start with?
It's like playing Russian roulette.
Only without any actual bullets.
No, except we're all duds.
Gallix, why don't you start the proceedings this week?
Okay, well, the other day I dropped my Toon Link amiibo while I was scanning it for Breath of the Wild, and the stand on not the figure and not the base, but the little semi-transparent bit connecting it broke. But luckily, I was able to get someone with super glue at the game store today to glue that back in place, so that's good. I've been playing Breath of the Wild, and I've been staying up too late sometimes playing that because it's very easy to just, there's one more thing I want to do before I stop.
Welcome to the Nintendo trap.
Mm-hmm. So that's been fun. It was really warm the last couple days, and I was hoping to say it was starting to feel like spring, but then today it was below 30 again, so...
Wah.
Weather, New England gonna New England, I guess. And I'm almost feeling better, and I'm only coughing a couple times per hour now.
So just quarter of a month now.
Yeah, other than the coughing, I'm feeling pretty much fine, but the coughing is annoying, so... There's a significant chance that I might still forget to mute my mic or forget that my mic is muted when I'm trying to talk. But
we'll let you know if that happens.
Yep. Hopefully it'll be the latter, even though that's more annoying for me. Anyway, that's all, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's see. Petty Fan, you're up.
It's starting to turn green here, which means lawn mowing adventures.
Oh boy, you're not getting citations from the city again, are you?
Not yet. It's too early for that. But I really don't like mowing the lawn. If that hasn't been made obvious. But yeah.
What kind of lawnmower do you have?
The kind that you push.
Like motorized? Or...
Yeah, motorized. Not like, from the old cartoon that's just, the regular push mower. It actually is motorized. No hill assist, though, and our yard is mostly hill, so that's fun.
So no motor on the wheels, just on the blade.
Yeah, just a spinning blade.
I honestly like that kind better. I don't trust motorized wheels on a thing like that. It's also why I hate snowblowers.
In here where I live, they're almost a necessity because it gives you extra pushing power up a hill.
Mm-hmm.
But like somewhere
Well, you're
more
not. I think
flat,
you're not actually supposed to go up and down hills. I think you're supposed to go sideways along hills, which I understand is not actually better.
yeah. Well, our hill is steep enough I can't do that, or else I start losing my footing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, we have a pretty steep hill. Like, I've debated just throwing a rope around the kill switch and just throwing it down and pulling it back up. I know it's not recommended, but screw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I've been playing some games for the show. I almost beat Deadpool, which I rented a while back. Final level's a bitch, though. Outside of that, been getting ready for the interview we're going to be having on MSP, which for those of you who've missed it is Drek and Seabass from the Nest rating group on Final Fantasy XIV. That's going to be fun.
Interesting.
Save the extended plug for the end of the show.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, that's it for me.
All right. Twilight, you go next.
Let's see now. Spring's arrived and everything's getting warmer and such, but with the unusually pleasant winter we've had, that's been causing issues with ants getting in the house recently.
Same.
Yeah. It's kind of annoying, but not come to pass. Otherwise, next week we'll probably finally get my parents' burial plot finalized, hopefully. And then,
For those who are not keeping score at home, Twilight's parents are not dead. They're just thinking ahead.
yeah. Yeah. Get out of the way. So
Now let's go down this
deal with
dark
it.
alley and hope nothing bad happens.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise, been playing games for the show as well as just about like everybody else playing Breath of the Wild. And that's it on my end.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right, Ogre, it's your turn.
Let's see. Not much been happening, though. This month I've been on jury call for all of March, so
That's been fun.
Not
Eh.
on duty, just on.
on call, so if I ever have to go in, I just have to follow the instructions and everything.
I've done that.
Been pretty much lucky so far and haven't gotten called in, so yay. But I still got a couple more Fridays to go, so I ain't out of the woods yet on that one.
On one hand, I've kind of always wanted to be on jury duty. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure that would involve being out of the house before noon, so I probably don't actually want to.
I've been called into jury duty once, and then I was immediately dismissed with a preemptory challenge because I was 19.
What? And they didn't think a 19-year-old would be unbiased on that trial?
I'm assuming that's why I got the preemptory challenge, which is basically we are dismissing without even telling you why.
Jeez.
Let's see. Other than that, I got a dentist appointment tomorrow, early in the morning, so I got to take care of that. Which pretty much mean I'm not going to be on MSP, so
Well,
because it's at 9:20, and
yikes.
yeah.
Uh,
Listen, I'm willing to suck it up if this gets my dentures and stuff. So,
yeah.
and I gave Mac notice, so.
Yeah.
And you've had notice for a while, so I shouldn't hear any complaints other than, oh, I can't believe Ogre's not here. No, I can't talk about stuff happening in the news. Not that it's stopped anybody before.
No, it has not.
Let's see.
LP stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, everything's going fine on that front. Just did another. Kind of funny on color splash, because it feels strangely organic the way we're doing everything, but at the same time, kind of wish that it felt like it had a little more structure to it. Like everything's, you feel like you go to a level naturally, but then it's just, I can't really, don't know how to say it. It just feels like we should have done more by now.
Well, I mean,
So the progression doesn't feel very even.
Yeah, it feels like you're just going up a really high hill and just nothing's being done about it.
well, the game isn't following normal progression rules. Like, you're not taking on all the red stages and then all the blue stages and all the green stages. You're switching off and
Yeah.
branching out in different ways. That's why it feels more organic, but it also feels like you're not really accomplishing as much. You've only faced one boss so far. You've only recovered 1 star. So
Though we're up to 2 now, so
the point still stands. How many
Yeah.
episodes has it been? And you're only what, 2? A third of the way through.
got us episode 25 the other night, so
Yeah. So yeah, that explains that.
yeah. But let's see. Oh, and I just got Naka and Barry's save the date invitate in the mail today, so
The what now?
the save the
To
date
save the
for
date
the
for the
wedding.
wedding.
Oh, they're getting married.
Yeah,
Oh, I did not know.
Oh.
they've been planning to get married for a while.
Well, I knew it
I
was planned. I didn't know they picked a date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did not know that that was happening. I'm like, I really don't pay attention to what Naka's doing at any given moment.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
think he's
no,
mentioned
he-
anything on stream or Twitter that I know of.
He hasn't,
He hasn't.
he hasn't
Yeah.
mentioned much, but
I mean, I'm not shocked. He's kind of a private person, so.
yeah. Well, that's why I'm not giving out the date, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a day.
It's like,
yeah.
it's like
there.
I.
What?
really
They're getting married on the air horn of barking dogs?
It's more. It's like I really don't talk to Naka because he's really unresponsive on Skype, and quite frankly,
Let's see. Other than that, yeah, I think that's about it for me.
All right. Let's see. I guess it's my turn.
No, it's Mac's turn. Surprise.
That would be a surprise,
Don't summon him.
but he kind of has a giant turn called MS.
Grrr. Oh God, Mac has risen.
Yes.
All right.
It's about an hour early.
Knock it off. Knock it off. Anyway, let's see. For me, let's see. Friday, I have to go down and pay that citation I got last month.
Boo.
Haven't been looking forward to that.
That's why I'm booing. Boo.
Let's see. All right, next next Tuesday, I have to take my mother down to get a mammogram. Like, I'm not exactly sure. She doesn't know what the process is involved with, and fuck if I know. So she's concerned she might not have enough stamina to drive herself home. So I gotta take her down there. And as such, that's actually affecting the show schedule. Because we were supposed to have a Tuesday interview next week. That has been moved to Thursday.
Okay, I'm not sure I can do Thursday, just so you know.
It's something I really couldn't get out of, so just kind of had to roll with the punches, as it were.
Well, I hope everything goes all right.
I'm like, she went to the doctor a few days ago, and they apparently found some cells that might be cancerous. But
That's
I'm
okay.
like, Well, it's like apparently like that might be like this is apparently a really common thing, but in order to be sure, she has to get a mammogram. So yeah, I'm not particularly concerned about it based off of everything she told me. I mean, I I suppose there's always the chance for the worst, but I don't want to venture on that thought process right now for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So, not sure how long the procedure is going to take, or indeed when she gets the results back. But sure, find that out next week. So, I think that'll about do it for news for me for the week. So, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And this week we have Ryan Davis of RyGuyGames.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Right. So we'd like to start by getting to know the person behind the game. And we like to begin at what we consider to be the beginning. That is, what sparked your interest in video games in the first place?
Well, like many kids of the 90s, I grew up playing games. And I was always interested in playing, but I've always liked to make things as well. And I was about 11. I got a burned copy of Game Maker from my dad, who'd found it online. And I think I'd messed with some other things before that, but it was very, like, dabbly kinds of things. But getting Game Maker really changed things for me. And I spent my, I guess, middle and high school years making games and just, making stuff, being a kid, bored and with a computer. I didn't really have a burning passion. It was just a thing to do. I learned how to do it because I like to make things, and I really fell in love with seeing stuff move around on the screen. I was always really interested in making things do things, so it was a natural fit for me.
Right, and how did you become interested in making video games professionally?
I think that's kind of a natural step for any kid who's making stuff. They think about how they could, the games that they play, they had to buy, and it seems like there's some kind of magic step between I made this thing and I made this thing and someone paid me for it. And it's hard to imagine that as a kid, but it was always something that I was interested in. But in the late 90s and early 2000s, digital distribution just wasn't really a thing. So it was pretty impossible. And I'm very interested in lots of things. So the idea of making it was sort of an all-in idea, right? Like, go to school and join this industry thing. And even the word industry just really didn't appeal to me at all. So I never really thought that it would be a professional thing. But when I grew up and I still love to make things, and I was making games anyway. It was kind of about the time that digital distribution became what it is now, or a bit more like what it is now. And I realized that if I spent as much energy as I did doing this, I might as well decide to take it seriously enough to finish more projects than I was, and to just put it out there with a price tag on it. It wouldn't hurt anything to try that. So that was the first step. It was Probably about 2012 I started thinking that way.
And well, did you actually go to school to refine your skill sets?
No, not at all. I went to a liberal arts college for totally unrelated field. Got a. It's confusing, but it amounts to a double major, and half of that was an art degree. So I have a background in art. I was self-taught in art anyway, but the schooling helped refine that. But no, nothing related to games. I've always been kind of the only one I know who does this until, being old enough to go to things like the Ohio Game Developer Expo, which used to be, well, now is GDEX. But, going places where you meet the people. Before that, it was just the internet. The internet was the only place that had people that did things like I did. But I never met anyone. I didn't go to a school that did that. I self-taught it only begins to describe how I got into games.
Well, I mean, can you how was it in developing games, in 2012 versus, tinkering around in the 90s?
Well, when I started, we had a dial-up internet connection. So I just had this download of GameMaker, and we didn't live in the United States. So it was kind of like mid to early 90s internet. It was so slow. Loading a forum was a task. So what I did was what I had this thing that could push pixels around on the screen, and I had MS Paint. So I tinkered, and I made things I thought were neat, and I showed my friends on floppy disks. It wasn't quite, Atari stuff or Z Spectrum. I mean, those things. I'm definitely a generation past that, but it was kind of this strange situation because I had limited resources that were further limited by growing up somewhere very remote. And I really just entertained myself. And then I would upload these 1 megabyte things that took me, an hour to upload to somewhere where I could share it with people and maybe get 5 forum posts that said it were neat. And that was really all that I wanted out of it. And I just love to make things. And that, as I grew up, things changed. I don't really need Cool Man from some teenager halfway across the world anymore. It doesn't really motivate me to get just a few high fives. I got to do more with my time. And that's just part of growing up. So things are different now than they used to be, but it really just sits on that idea that I love to make things, and if I didn't take it seriously, I would be tinkering with it anyway. So I treat it like a job so that it goes somewhere and not a whole lot of nowhere. So about the time I started taking it seriously, the HTML5 technology started getting some legs under it. So JavaScript became viable as a game platform, and there were these companies that wanted to capitalize on that. They were hoping it was the next Flash, and in some ways it is, but in some ways it's never going to be what it used to be. And I don't think anyone really knows where it's going, but the point is there was a bit of a market that was suddenly there that needed content, and I decided to just make some small things and email these companies and see if they would buy a license for the game. So the idea is they buy a license for the game, and it gives them the right to have it on their website. They pay you a fee or whatever. And I made less than minimum wage doing it, but it got me through grad school. And I really enjoyed doing that. It felt good to have my work validated like that. You know, forum posts are great, but after a while you start thinking, man, no one cares about this. But when someone, you know, sends you a check for something, it's pretty validating. I quickly found out that's pretty soulless because I'm working with just a business person. It's not players. No one cared how the game played. They just wanted it to work well on their site. So after a while of doing that, I decided I wanted to try working for gamers, make games for gamers, and that's where Adventurelamp came from.
Right. So I suppose the question that beckons is this your actual full-time career, or is it still something that you do like on the side?
It's not my, well, as far as taxes are concerned, it's not my full-time job. I work 40 hours a week elsewhere, and then I work mornings, lunch hours, evenings, weekends on games. And it sounds like a death march, but it isn't. It's a good way to change gears and do something very different. I really enjoy it, and when I start to feel burnout, I take a deep step back and do other things for a while. I'm my own boss, so I get to pick my hours, and if I need to lighten my load, then I do, because I value my life and my mental health, and I'd rather not lose them.
I gotta say, you're a bit of a rare breed on this program because, you know, like usually the people we get, like all the way down to the indie set, tend to be they're in it full time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in many ways, it is. My schedule is very, very full time because 40 hours a week plus 10 to 20 of game dev is a long work week. But I try not to. If I feel crunch, I back off of it. And there's some weeks where, you know, it's important to really stick your head into it and work every moment, especially when there's a lot of really great stuff happening. But some weeks and months are just kind of slow. Like right now, every time I sit down to work, it just kind of it drips out. You know, I get things done, but a month and a half ago, it's like, you know, I had this long list of things that I accomplished in that time, and things ebb and flow. And again, I am my boss, so I get to pick my times. Sometimes they're harder and longer than others, but it's important to me to have some balance in life. And if I lose my focus on, I love to make things and I want my things to look like they were loved as they were made, then I really was wasting my time anyway. So that's how I approach it.
It's an interesting perspective. Like I said, it's definitely not one we get often because, well, you know, the game, working on the games is all the work all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's your rent, you have to do it. And
Right.
I am in a good position where it's not my rent. And if something's a total flop, the only thing that really suffers is my feelings. You know, like, I love that thing and I want it to be loved back. And when the market is just a market in a business setting and it doesn't take for whatever reason, it doesn't feel nice. But I'm certainly not going to be evicted over it. And that's a nice position to be in, and I really value that.
That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. Now, I mean, especially since, you know, we've had this particular conversation quite a bit lately. But that is, there are so many games out there these days. That,
Yeah.
They're like
It's an
more.
understatement.
Yeah, they're like more games than ever. It's like a good chunk of Steam games came out last year and last year alone and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the question has been increasingly, how do you stand out in today's market?
Yeah, and I think that's a really tough nut to crack for anybody. Sort of the point of being on here is for me to hawk my stuff, right? But I think in some ways Adventureland really missed that mark because it's a tough mark to hit. In a lot of ways, I hit it. I did a great job of making something that's like the stuff I like, and it didn't differentiate itself, I think, enough to get the kind of traction that's necessary to stand out. It's just flooded, it's a tough place to be a person making stuff. Doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean there's failure and all of that, but it does mean that what was it? I saw something the other day that last Friday 40 games came out on Steam.
Right.
It's nuts. How do you, even if you boiled all of the other stuff away and you just said you have a 1 in 40 chance of getting this thing you want right now, you would just assume you're not going to get it.
Right.
So that's how it is sometimes. It's tough.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, not everyone, makes it in the industry and so on and so forth.
No, that's why in all the other creative fields, they say you got to pay your dues. It's not something we say very often here, but it's so true. I have been making games for 10 years. 10 years is not something to sneeze at. And about this time, I started feeling mature in my ability to make things, to think critically about what I'm making, think about it, how it fits in the overall structure of all the other games, which means now as I make things, I have a chance to start having moderate successes. But in all the other creative fields, you wait, you come in, you pay your dues, and you wait for your break. I think break mentality is a little broken, but in many ways, the people who stick around are the people who get the things that they're looking for. If you come in, you pop your head in, and you say, "Is there anything here for me?" and you don't wait around, then no, you're not getting anything. It's just not going to happen. The odds are not in your favor. So you got to be willing to play the long game.
In a lot of cases, yes. It's like there are also like the lucky breaks of the world.
Sure, and we highlight them and talk about them, but they are flukes of the universe. They are not something to follow. They're not a path to blaze. They're a path to look back on and say, wow, that was a weird thing that happened, but it's not a course to follow.
Right, like you're not going to recreate, say, an Undertale.
No, I'm not. And actually, so when I was in the HTML5 market, there was a forum of developers who were sharing information and talking about the good sponsors and what's a good price for this? Don't sell it for less than this because the market will bottom out. That's that kind of thing. Small pool of people, like 20 to 30 maybe. One of those people made games that were very similar to mine. I thought, this is a guy who makes things I resonate with. I could, it's maybe a mark just above mine. I'd like to learn from this thing. I followed him on Twitter because I thought I'd like to make these little games just like you flock with people who seem similar, right? And he was selling the same kinds of things to the same kinds of people. The only difference is that he was putting some things on the App Store as well. I tried a couple, but the process was not my cup of tea, so I didn't do it quite as much. Anyway, he put this game up called Flappy Bird and waited. And I watched his Twitter feed explode. Yeah, he still follows me. I don't think Dong knows who I am anymore. But we were in that pool together doing the same things. And he got the bizarre fluke of the universe. And I didn't. And it's really fine. But the point is, like, you can't follow that path. It's not a path. It just happened. You can kind of set yourself up for success like that, but you will not guarantee it. So in the end, you got to hedge your bets. So, full-time jobs are not a bad thing. And you have to play the long game, because you will burn out in the short time if you think that your break is right around the corner.
Like I said, it's an interesting perspective. I don't often hear, this line of thoughts, from people we interview on the program.
Sure, that's why there aren't many 30 to 40-year-olds on the program, because they leave.
I'm like, more than you might think. Like,
oh, that's good to hear. Usually the 20-year-olds are all ablaze about it, but then they're like, screw this, I don't need it anymore. If you go to game developer expos, there's a bunch of young faces and a few older ones, but they don't tend to last because they don't know how to set themselves up for the long term.
Yeah, and then there are the people who've been doing it forever.
Yeah,
started a long time ago. But yeah, there is kind of a middle area.
You want to flock around those ones, right? Because they know what they're doing.
Oh, believe me, we've had legendary figures on this program. We've had, like, seriously, we've had like all types. People who just start out, like people who worked in AAA, people who've been doing this since like literally the 70s.
Yeah, man, I would like to talk with them.
They were illuminating discussions.
Yeah, I bet.
Anyway, getting back on track here.
Sure.
Right. So, Petty Fan here hasn't been able to figure out how to capture footage for the game, so we have the trailer ready. Is it ready, Petty Fan?
Give me one moment.
All right. Let me know when you're ready.
All right.
Apparently, there's some conflict with OBS and Adventurelamp that hasn't quite worked out. Hopefully, it'll be that'll be fixed by Sunday, because we are planning to review the game on that day.
This might have been better for the pre-show, but if you have trouble with that, I clearly was able to capture video for it, and I can help out. I did a screen capture that seemed to do it rather than a window capture. So anyway,
we can look into that. All right, I am ready. I think I switched over audio so I can actually play the trailer.
All right, go for it. So that is Adventurelamp. It's a platformer centered around an archaeologist square named Simon, strapped in a cave-in and has to escape through 150 levels of increasing difficulty.
It's very cute.
Yes. Right,
Yeah,
I
cute's
suppose-
about the core word on there, isn't it?
Right. Well, I suppose I should start by asking what was the inspiration for this game?
Well, let me just do a quick gauge. I did send some keys. Were you able to play it?
Yes. I'm not sure if everyone here has played it, but I know I have.
I played a little bit.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
have it, but I don't usually have much time to play early in the week, so
Yeah,
Sure.
he's usually later in the week. I actually beat the game the other day.
Hey, congratulations.
Even got the speedrunning achievement.
Yay.
Wow, that's impressive.
Um,
Okay, so you
Twilight-
wanted to know about the inspiration, right?
yeah.
Okay, so Adventure Lamp started as a Ludum Dare entry.
Mm.
For anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a 48-hour game jam, so a competition to make a full game start to finish in 48 hours. It's very loose in terms of competition. There's rating at the end, and then there's a winner in different categories, but there's no prize. It's really just very community-centered. It's great as a way to jumpstart a project or get some creative juices flowing or explore an idea, that sort of stuff. I like participating because not only do I end up with something finished, but I get a lot of very fast feedback from real people. One of the hardest things to do is get people to care about what you're doing. The only people who care are your friends, and they give you terrible feedback about what you're making.
Yes.
So I like Ludum Dare because you get a full spectrum of things like this is crap and I hate it to this is really cool and I think this and this would improve the experience. So it's a nice litmus test. So the theme. So there's a theme chosen by the community. You don't know what it is until the competition starts. So that one, the theme was what's it? There's a term. Unconventional weapon. So I was playing around with some ideas. I don't know exactly the steps, but I'd been watching a lot of Zach Bell on my Twitter feed. I don't know if anyone knows who he is, but he made Ink. Made a little bit of waves for a while there. It's a platformer with it uses the Splatoon kind of ink splash idea in a 2D platformer, but you can't see anything, so you splatter the world, and that's how you get through this really hard puzzle platformer. Anyway, he has a lot of squash and stretch on his characters, and so they're squishy. And I think that it started seeping into my visual toolkit, and I used it on this black square that I was prototyping with, and it was really squishy and nice looking, and I really liked how it moved. And I think on a whim, I just decided to put a hat on him, and I thought to make it kind of drag behind because the little square was so responsive. I thought, well, maybe his hat should be too. And it got far enough away from the character that I thought, really it should fall off. It looks kind of weird that it's doing that. So I put a little physics thing on it and told it when it got so far away from the head, it wouldn't drag back, it would actually fall off. And it was so funny looking. It was so immediately compelling and understandable, and I'd never seen a platformer do that. It's like this, essentially a box that has animated sprites over the top, but the character doesn't have any parts that really are meaningfully interacting with the world, but And this was really different. Like, you had to think about your clothing, and I'd never thought about that with a platformer. So I decided to have him throw it, and that would be the weapon. And it just kind of went from there. I needed something that the story needed to make sense around that idea, so I made it a hard hat with a lamp, and I needed a character where that would make sense again. And because it was so clumsy, I wanted a character who was kind of clumsy and bumbly, and but where the clumsiness didn't feel bad, where it actually felt good. So, it all kind of grew out of that idea. So he's a cute archaeologist kind of person. It's sort of in the Indiana Jones realm, right? His hat's falling off. He grabs his hat because he doesn't want to leave his hat. And those ideas kind of percolating for a long time, and it took about a year to make after the competition. But the competition, there are like a couple thousand entries, and it got 17th overall, so I figured something was going right here, and I decided to go forward with it. So, yeah, I think that answers the question.
Indeed. Right. So, how much of Adventureland was like completed for Ludlam Dare, or rather, what did the Ludlam
Yeah.
Dare?
So
like
the playable version from that is no longer available because it was hosted on Dropbox, which cut that support when it found out what we were doing. But it had, I think, 10 to 15 levels. They were actually, some of them remain in the blue area at the beginning. It was all just that. It was just level to the end. There was a little bit of really rough story card stuff at the beginning, and thanks for playing at the end, but it was just proof of concept. Lots of the polish wasn't there with Simon. I've worked really hard to give him lots of really responsive things. So like when he stands on the edges of platforms, he tips a bit and looks worried, and if a laser points at him, he gets this horrified look on his face, stuff like that. But it was, the main stuff was there. It was enough to show that there was something useful with this. So I didn't have the buttons, I didn't have the wind, all of that came later. But the Ludum Dare entry, it was probably about 5 to 10 minutes of game, but it was enough to say that there was something there.
And what made you want to take the concept further than Ludlam Dare?
I think 17th overall was it. That, and I was really done with the mobile web HTML5 licensing thing. I wanted something different, and it seemed like the right thing to go with. So, yeah, that's really it.
And how long did you spend reworking the game into its present form?
Well, that first prototype was done in 2 days, but the game took a year to make. Almost, a year and a month or two. So quite a while, and it's weird that because it doesn't seem like that much more than that initial concept, but that's kind of how things go. You get lost in the weeds after a while, and a lot of it is figuring out where you're going. So, like, yeah, the hat's neat, but what kind of gameplay things are fun with that? There's a lot that's not fun. Let me tell you, I weeded out a lot of really crummy situations, things that you don't want to use that with. So I tried to highlight the most interesting and surprising and fun and awesome feeling moments, and put them all together in a line and in a way that the player isn't frustrated by the fact that they can't do it. So, for instance, I have one level where you have to throw your hat over kind of a building to hit a button. And I learned at the Game Developer Expo in Ohio that people were having a hard time understanding that, and they were trying things, and they were even trying the right thing, but they were just a little too far to the right, and the hat didn't fly over the building. It slammed into it and bounced away, and so what they learned was, oh, that doesn't work, and they stopped trying it. So I had to make one tile more to the left so that they were more inclined to try it from a little farther away, and it worked immediately, and I don't have any trouble with it anymore. So stuff like that, it happened a lot. So it's the process of finding those interesting things, finding the things that are frustrating and smoothing them out, finding mechanics that mesh well with the idea that aren't just derivative of everything else that's out there. So that was about a year of that. And when you work alone, yeah, when you work alone, it's you do everything, and you go back and forth across everything several times.
Well, did you do everything in this game, including
everything but the soundtrack?
There we go.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if there's a component of a game that was outsourced, it's usually the soundtrack.
It's such a deep well. I'm a musician, but I'm not a digital composer. It's so different. Being able to sing has no bearing on being able to compose music in any of the software that they use. It is as deep as game dev, and it's on its own island. So it was well worth outsourcing that.
Yeah. Well, who did you use to make the soundtrack?
There are a couple guys that go by Fatbard. I believe it's fatbardmusic.com, but it's a quick Google search of Fatbard and bring in probably, I guess, composition or music. You'll find them very quick. They've got a fun bard-looking guy with a lute. That's their logo. They were very great to work with, and I'm interested in working with them in the future.
And right, so the game was made using an engine called Construct.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We don't get a lot of people who work with that.
Yeah, it's kind of it's not Unity, right?
Yeah, it's like I've lost track of the amount of people we've had that are making something in Unity.
Yeah, and I wish I was one of them in some cases, because it's like, geez, everyone's using it. All the work's there, all the side projects people would pay real quick for, or asset store stuff. But Construct has its perks. I'm glad I'm in it. So I started with Game Maker, and when they changed to Game Maker Studio, they bumped their prices up to try and compete with Unity. And I don't know, there was no mention of the paid users they were dumping, and I just felt not so great about that. So after that, which felt surprisingly like a breakup, I saw Construct, and I just thought they were advertising about HTML5 because that's their thing, and it meshed well with the licensing stuff I was talking about. So I decided to try it out, and I just have been using that for the last few years. It's not, the end of the line for me. I'm sure I'll learn something else eventually. I don't know any traditional computer programming languages. I was about to say I don't know why, but I think the reason is that they're so far away from making a game. There's so many steps between learning C++ and actually finishing a game loop that it really never held me. So I like using programs that take care of the back end for me, because I'm very front end focused. So Construct's good for that. There's they're doing a Construct 3. It's coming out this summer. I'm pretty excited about that. But I'm looking at Unity as well because there's a lot of opportunity there, and thinking about the future and that sort of thing is important. But for now, I'm happy with what I've got. It works really well with 2D, which I love. I love 2D quite a bit.
Like I said, I really don't know that much about Construct. Since, like I said, we may have had other people work in the engine, but it's been a long time. I can tell you.
I think Naka's making Gaia in Construct.
So the basics of it is that it's a JavaScript engine. I don't write the JavaScript. It's a very what you see is what you get, mouse-driven thing. But the logic is programming logic. So, I really miss my keyboard because GameMaker had GameMaker language. I learned that. I was very good at it. And then I jumped to this, and it was a little bit hard at first, but the logic is still very. It can get complex and deep as much as you want it to, so it's not a limiter. But anyway, it exports to JavaScript-based stuff, so it runs in a browser, or you can wrap it in something that'll run an exe. It has potential to work on Xbox, so that's not quite figured out yet for most people, and it definitely worked on the Wii U while that was a thing. So it's got a lot of options, but it's definitely at its best in a browser.
And then also an easy port to like Mac and Linux.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some weird things with every time you use 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 different services to make sure your game works, as soon as something updates, there's a new bug that is unrelated to what you did. So that's always a thing that I'm wrestling with. But yeah, in concept, it's very easy to do PC, Mac, and Linux, which is why Adventure Lamp is PC and Mac. I don't have a Linux to test on, so I never did that. And I probably only missed, a handful of dollars in the end anyway. So yeah, it's a nice program to use.
Sounds like it. How is its mobile capabilities?
It's pretty good. Mobile's a giant monster with its own weird systems. So making for mobile, especially web mobile, is super easy. But going through iTunes is a nightmare I can't even get into. I try not to remember it. iTunes is a crazy system, but Google Play was remarkably, in comparison, simple. I can see why it has as much content as it does. Google, of course, is awesome. But yeah, lots of people use Construct for mobile. It's a great platform for that.
Well, I'm not. I'm like, I gotta admit that don't hear that too often. Usually, when people slag mobile, it's Android versus iOS. Though I think that might have to do with making games for Android is a bit trickier than making games for iOS.
Well, yeah, it's harder to be sure of what kind of hardware you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's true. I try to aim low because in the end, I can't compete with the big teams. I can only compete with solo people. And the things that stand the test of time are ultimately very simple anyway. So instead of getting caught up in complex systems and really hardware intensive things, I go for interactions that are surprisingly simple, but no one thought to do that before I got there. and then I don't have hardware problems in the end anyway. Now, eventually I've had some in the end because it was designed with low technical things, and then there were weird things going on with the thing I wrap it in that makes it run on PC. Anyway, that update that caused a bug that wasn't my problem. But as far as mobile's concerned, I've always aimed low so that I don't have hardware limitations. I think it ends up being a better it ends up being better gameplay anyway, because I'm not concerned about the CPU, I'm concerned about the player.
Right. And so what are you working on now?
Well, so I may have thrown a bit of a confusing series of tweets. I'm not making anything for the VR system I have, but I am deeply enjoying having a Vive. It's nice. And of course, the ideas can't stop coming out of my head. It's one of the reasons that Unity is appealing, but I don't do 3D. Never have, and it's a deep hole. So anyway, what I'm doing right now is quite different. I met some people who make arcade cabinets, and they're interested in new games. So I'm making a small 6-person racing game where 6 people are crowded around a normal-sized arcade cabinet, and they have one joystick. They don't have buttons or anything. It's just left, right, and boost. And it's called Rocket Party Racer. It takes place on on Titan, the moon around Saturn. The idea is that this colony is celebrating its anniversary of being a colony or something like that. And they do that every year with rocket races, and so it's a physics-heavy racing pixely extravaganza. So I'm excited about that because I've never had hardware to play with, and this will be something new. That doesn't mean that it's arcade only. It'll be arcade first. So, I design it for the arcade, I sell it to arcade owners, and then after it's got some mature space there, and hopefully fans in that space, bring it to probably itch and Steam and
Couch
console or
co-op
whatever.
with many people could be interesting.
Yeah. The idea is that there are only 2 buttons, so 4 controllers. I mean, you could go up to 8 people if everyone has, one half of a controller. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do.
That's pretty much how they did Runbow, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know it's not the only... I'm not the first to have that idea.
No, I wasn't trying to take away from that. I was just saying, I think that they made it so you'd have to, share controllers or something.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I'm agreeing with you. I think I've seen that before. I think it's a really cool idea, especially since people don't spend enough time smashed together. We're all alone on our little computers, not making eye contact, never ever touching. And I think that's not really great for the human condition. So I like to make things that get people to interact kind of on accident. And unfortunately, the digital distribution era hasn't really done good things for that. So I'm excited about the arcade, and if I can get couch co-op going as a secondary thing where the cost isn't subsidized by whether or not people are willing to do the couch thing, then it'll be kind of a bonus for anyone who's willing to go that far, because I think that's really cool when it happens.
Right. I gotta ask, what do arcade owners look like now?
It's a very different scene, and I'm still learning about it. But there are a lot of barcades. So they're places that they're bars, but they've got arcade cabinets. And a lot of them are free to play. Some of them are still coin op, but they really don't mean, a quarter isn't what it was in the 70s or 80s. But you can't get people to put in more money because there's nothing better than one coin, dropping one coin in. That really like makes sense in our brains. But 3 or 4 quarters for a small play session, it just doesn't feel the same. So, coin op's harder. But yeah, a lot of them are subsidized by beer. Lots of arcades. There are other things too, but that's the bulk of it. And they're getting a resurgence for a lot of reasons. They're retro and cool, and people who now have spendable income are old enough to remember it fondly, but there's nothing around, and then someone catches wind of that idea and starts a bar or some other kind of business that has arcade attached to it. So yeah, that's most of it right now. It's a small pool, but it's devoid of game developers. So I'm hoping to do some filling.
I gotta admit that's really interesting because, geez, I think the last time I saw an arcade cabinet was like at Dave & Buster's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the legitimate options right now, but there aren't many.
Mm-hmm. No, believe me, I know. Like, yeah, like, right. So, unless my colleagues have any further questions, I think this will conclude things at this juncture.
Everything I had was answered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I got most of the stuff, most of my curiosity answered. I did take a little bit of a break while you were talking to try out the game a little bit because I wanted to try it out while you were talking about it. It's pretty
Cool.
fun.
Thanks. I appreciate it. If you can, I know that there's lots going on, but definitely get to the wind if you can, because that's where the game really starts to come alive. It's the third area. I thought about all the ways that hats interact with the world, and one of them is that wind could blow it off your head, and I thought, well, that's a mechanic. Throw your hat up, and then it goes left, and well, what could I do with that? So that, at the very least, that's a good one. Oh, and then after it gets dark, and you have to throw your light around. Anyway, I like my game, if you can't tell. For anyone who's listening in, you can follow me on Twitter at RyGuyGames, just the @ symbol RyGuy in games, and you should get Adventurelamp. It's on Steam. It's $10. If you don't want to start at Steam, you can start it at adventurelamp.com and find yourself there. It's also on itch.io. I think it's a little less expensive there, just because they don't take quite as much of a cut, and I like itch and I want to support them and all of that. So yeah, hit me up on Twitter. You can get the game for $10 or a little bit less, and I really appreciate you having me on the show.
No problem, no problem. We thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here tonight. All right, so Petty Fan, play us to the next segment. All right, welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we are apparently talking about jump potions. I know next to nothing about this, so team, take it away.
All right, the skinny on basically the jump potion.
So a jump potion is like 50 gold, right? And it gives you like a plus 10 bonus on acrobatics checks to jump.
Ha 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 ha. But yeah, jump potions for MMOs is basically a cash shop item that you can use to get to basically what is now current content. Like, if a bunch of expansions come out, you skip the previous expansions and go straight to the new stuff.
So it's mostly marketed towards new and lapsed players.
Yeah. Like, for example, in Final Fantasy XIV, which is a game that's considering getting jump potions, to go from start to End of Heaven's Word, which is where Stormblood will start off at, is about 150 hours. So right now, if you were to get into the game, you'd need to go for about 150 hours just to be able to be ready for the new content that's coming in June. And for some people, that's a lot.
Don't they also sometimes do things in the games to make it a little bit easier to level up faster through the beginning stuff?
Yeah, this is post-nerf stuff. It's still about 150 hours. Before, it was a lot longer. But yeah, so basically it's to cut down on grinding mostly because...
It's an RPG, what do you expect?
Yeah. So... And obviously a lot of people are like, oh, if they just jump to the end, they won't learn anything, they'll just be bad at the game. It's like, really?
Yeah, but these are also people who want to put an investment in the game that they don't necessarily want to spend a week or so without sleep or anything in between.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, if I didn't get into Final Fantasy 14 when I did, I don't know if I would have, made it to where I am now.
Well, it's better than getting into Final Fantasy 14 well before you did, and
Then I would have joined with Ogre.
I got in it when it was Final Fantasy 14 Legacy Beta.
Yeah. Ogre was on the ground floor.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of a high-rise apartment. But yeah. So, and also there are people, bitching and complaining that, oh, I did all this content, they should too, and it's just a whole lot of drama, even though it's really not that bad.
I can see a point to their drama because they want their time invested to feel worthwhile. And that is really kind of a sticking point for why you would say no to a jump potion. But the reason you would be doing so is jumping in new players.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of the expansion, is to get new players.
Yeah.
And to expand the game, but...
Because if you just try and expect people to, grind all the way up from nothing to, where you currently are, that takes a lot of time, and not a lot of people are willing to invest that amount of time. Especially if they already have friends who are in the end game, and it's like, I want to play with my friends. Instead of, I'm sorry, you have to wait until you do this, 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 and this. Yeah. People have been there. People have done it. Hell, Twilight's been through the grind.
Yes, and I'm surprised I have not been driven insane by it.
To be fair, though, the free company did help you out a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, yeah, unless you have help, this grind is insane.
Yeah, it is.
Well, that's kind of the conflicting desires on an MMO, is to always have enough grind for players that are playing the game to have to keep grinding so that they have to keep playing, but at the same time not alienate people.
Yeah, because if you alienate people, your player base is going to get really insular, and you're not going to have new blood to pay the bills. Because eventually people will drop off. As good as your game is, you can't keep people forever.
Yep.
Just ask WoW.
The finest example of...
Well, WoW did add a jump potion a while back, so...
Yeah, and a lot of people... Yeah, a lot of people have been marking that as what's killing WoW. I can think of other things that are killing WoW. And the reason why Well, also, a lot of it's the community. Like, I quit during the free trial period because, 4 different people were telling me to kill myself when I was asking where a quest NPC was. So, screw that noise.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one thing that kind of sucks about long-running MMOs like that.
I was about ready to say older MMOs like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everybody has to know where everything is, you know. But yeah.
Be glad you don't have to have an internet website open just so you can know what quest you accidentally opened by talking to a random NPC.
Dare I
Yeah, I
ask?
am not. If Final Fantasy XI did a lot of that.
Oh, I'm guessing
Talk
that
to an
was an older thing and they updated that, or is it still like that?
Still like that.
Oh god.
Basically, imagine taking a quest and take away your journal.
Oh sweet god, why?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that being an issue.
Mhm. But yeah.
But really, I don't see much of an argument against the jump potion if it's implemented well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, give a person up to level 15 to where they start unlocking the dungeons and a lot of their more regular abilities.
Or
that they'll
like
start
with
getting, or level 30 where they can start unlocking jobs or something.
Or like one thing I was mentioning with Final Fantasy XIV, you have to have the Hall of Novice at least completed on one character. Like it goes checks your lodestone and see, oh, you have a character with Hall of Novice completed. You can use a jump potion.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking around 15, because that's when you usually hit up the Hall of Novice.
Because
Yeah,
yeah,
at least that's
by then
at
you
least-
should have a basic understanding on what you're doing. You probably won't have your rotation down, but you'll at least know, you know, how the basic functions of the game work.
yeah, at least you'll know what you're doing and not have people yelling at you that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, in more of the end game stuff, you'll probably struggle, but you know, you won't be as much of a floundering fish as, say, what happened during Guild Grumps. If anybody remembers that thing that Game Grumps did.
In fairness, part of that was just Ross being a complete ass. But
Well, yeah.
Mm.
Complete
not
ass.
not describing their situations perfectly. Like, hey, Aaron, maybe you should look at your page so you know what your rotation is.
But if you think about it, that's also kind of what happens if you throw a just total newbie into the endgame world. And that's
well,
one
and
of
also
the...
just
and-
to some extent,
And
when
that's
you're in an end game in an MMORPG, it often becomes kind of job-like,
Mhm.
and
Well,
it's
yeah,
important. It's important for new players to get the fun part first.
Right.
yeah, end game stuff is very intensive and very focused. So
Mhm.
you have to know your job almost in and out to even get through most of the end game stuff.
Yeah. Like, I've seen
Yeah.
things thrown about, like, possibly an intermediate Hall of Novice with more job-specific stuff, which I would be okay with that.
Which is probably one of the reasons why people are against the jump potion, is because they don't want to see end game content run over by people who don't understand
Yeah.
said end game content.
Or having to try and carry somebody who technically has better gear than you did at that point.
Yeah, because there are surprisingly a lot of end game content bosses that have mechanics that you'll see later on that you'll learn pretty quickly through them.
Coil will teach you a lot of endgame stuff in Final Fantasy XIV. Stack mechanics, look away mechanics. The whole
There's
nine.
also the very big point of how much should it cost to
Yeah,
honestly do that?
because I mean,
Because this is something you're paying for. You're not getting it for free.
yeah. Like, I think some games, they bundle it in the starter pack if you want to use it, but that's kind of rare. But
I
yeah,
don't
like,
think Final Fantasy is going to really do that.
yeah. But like for, say it is 150 hours to, you know, clear everything, and Final Fantasy is, you know, $12 a month, 15, something like that.
It's $12.99. It's like $11.99, $12.99, something like that.
So say it takes somebody like, you know, 2 or 3 months to, you know, sanely grind up to endgame. You know, I would not expect someone to do this in a week. Holy shit.
No,
No.
like when I said a week, I meant like 24/7 nonstop. which
Yeah.
you could not physically do.
Your eyes would bleed out of your skull.
No, you'd be dead at some point. So
Yes.
don't even take up that challenge.
Yeah, this is not a challenge we advocate here on Fragments of Silicon.
Yeah,
Don't
this
do
is
it.
not a this is
No,
not a
that's-
hill anyone is going to die on, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just committing suicide at that point.
But yeah, so like what? $30 to jump all of that?
I think 30 is a little much.
Yeah. Well, I forget
It
what
also
WoW
depends
is.
how much the game costs for new
Yeah, I was going to
players.
say, how much does WoW's thing cost?
Let me look it up.
I think the basic pack for the first several expansions is like $20, I think.
20 seems kind of closer where I was going for. I
Yeah.
honestly felt like 15 was asking a little too much, but
Yeah, all
about
the way up to
get out of it.
all the way up to Mr. Pandera, I think it's like $20, I think.
Hmm.
And Warlords of Draenor where they started the jump potions, I think.
But yeah, I mean, the cost is going to have to be something manageable, because not
Yeah.
only you will be paying for the game, you're going to be paying for a monthly subscription for Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, because for Stormblood, you're going to need the base game, which right now is $20. Stormblood, which will come with Heaven's Word, thankfully, but that's
Oh, good. There's that bundle.
that's another $40 if you're getting it out launch day. So that's already $60 you're throwing down. I mean, yeah, you get a free month of content or a free month of play, but
It feels like it evens out.
yeah.
But yeah, and then depending, I would say Final Fantasy would probably do 20 to 30 on that. So overall, you're doing 60 to 80 bucks, something like that.
Apparently, at least this was an article from 2014. The jump potion was like $60 to boost to 90.
Hmm.
That-
Yowza.
Yeah,
I don't
that is a lot.
I don't think you can get away with that too much.
Yeah. Well, it also depends on how far it's boosting, you know.
Yeah.
If it's boosting you through almost a decade of content, I could kind of see, because Final Fantasy's, this is only its second expansion, so it's still fairly manageable.
Well,
Yeah.
technically, if you want to get really pedantic about it, third, but
Yeah.
not everyone talks about Legacy.
It died.
Yeah.
It did die. There was a meteor dropped on it, and a dragon popped up.
And it's torched everything.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, 60 seems a little. 60 seems a little too much right now.
yeah, at least for 14. I don't know enough about WoW and how long the grind to 90
Well,
actually
WoW
is.
has been around for years, so
Yeah.
there's
Early
plenty.
2000s.
Yeah, we're talking
50
like
might work if the game is free and it's a lot being skipped. More than that, I would say probably is a really hard sell.
Mhm. Well, and remember, for how many of the expansion packs do you have to buy for WoW? Do you have to buy all of them, or is it just the base game and the current expansion? If anybody knows.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't really keep up with WoW
Yeah.
stuff.
Because, like, if
It's been a while since I've played WoW. I think it's have all the expansions to play the current stuff, I think.
yeah,
Uh,
and if that's the case, then 60 is really unacceptable because, holy shit, it's had, like, what, 7 expansions?
Kind of
Yeah.
really how many it's had.
Yeah, no, reason I'm not entirely sure is because I downloaded the game when it was doing the start up the free trial thing, so I have no real clue.
'Cause, yeah, I guess the content downloads, so that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking on Battle.net right now and see if it says what I would need to get into the game.
I know they'll start you off at Mr. Pandera. I know that much.
Which, and that was, what, 2 expansions ago?
Sounds about right.
I used to have a friend who was really big into WoW.
So did I.
Yeah, World of Warcraft. Job. But yeah, all in all, the jump potions, it's not horrible.
It's not
Yeah,
going to be
but-
as bad as people make it out to be, but
Yeah.
Okay, all they have is the base game on Battle.net is the base game in Legion, so I'm guessing you just need that one expansion to play up to. You don't need to buy the rest of them, which that's kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess they're all included with the base game at this point. I'm assuming at least.
A 100 character 100 boost. Oh, it doesn't say out here. I'd have to actually get into the game. Unless they prorate it by what level they are, which if they do, that's nice. Oh, you get a free character boost when you buy Legion. So yeah, for this one, new players will get a free a free endgame jump, I guess, which that's kind of nice.
as long as they make it more enticing, it shouldn't be too much of a
Yeah.
problem.
Like I can
I can see the problem if it was like a player who, like us, just made another character and then tried to do the jump, and then that would definitely cost money.
Yeah, or like
But I
giving
can't
us an
really see them
option
doing
to jump our alternate classes. Like with the
Yeah.
way Final Fantasy 14 works, you just need one character. But like, say I'm not a good healer, but I need a healer leveled up so I can get my paladin job unlocked. But I suck horribly at it. If I could use a jump potion to bypass that, you know, I could see where that could be useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe something like that. I couldn't see it be done on a character you already have at 60.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's definitely something they wouldn't do. It'd have to be like a new character to jump.
Yeah. And also,
'Cause-
I guess for
'cause
14,
you've
what would
already
it
got
jump?
somebody
Would
at
it get everything to 60, or would it just give you, like, let you pick a main and that be at 60? With,
I would say probably pick a main to get you to 60, because everything else you can usually level up fine afterwards.
because one thing about 14 is you get armory bonus.
Yeah, which is what makes it easier to level up.
Yeah.
Other jobs is the higher the lower level one job is compared to the highest level, the more experience you get.
And
So if
also,
you have-
rest XP is factored and what that and all that.
Yeah. So I can definitely see it being one job, but it would have to be a new character. But yeah, you're not getting it to where I got every other job, but this one specific job up to 60. Jump potion.
And also, would it just be a class jump, or would it be like jumping you through the story as well? Or should that
It'd
be its own
probably be a
separate
jump.
item?
It would have to jump you through the story because there's no
Yeah.
because
Well-
the stories are too connected as much as they try to make them unconnected.
Well, because remember, the content is level synced for, you know, story dungeons and stuff, so they technically could make you run the story, and you wouldn't
Yeah,
be
they
that
technically-
overpowered.
They technically could. I mean, if they want to jump you up to the 50, and then you do Heaven's Ward.
Like, I think that's
be
on
fine,
the Asian servers, they have that.
Yeah, I know China does that,
Yeah.
but yeah, they'd have to jump you through the story because they had this trouble last time with the Heaven's Ward expansion where you had to finish a Realm Reborn completely to get to Heaven's Ward, and people weren't happy about it.
Technically
So if they're
1.0
gonna
story, and then 2.0.
So if they're going to start doing this around Heaven's Ward, they're going to have to jump you straight through Heaven's Ward to get up to Stormblood. Because let's face it, not everyone wants to wait around a month or two just to get to Red Mage.
Mm-hmm. Like, apparently, though, the new jobs will be unlockable in 2.0 areas, so if you have Heaven's Word, you could be a Red Mage or a Samurai.
I think that was part of the problem with, like, Dark Knight, is everybody wanted Dark Knight, but you were locked behind Heaven's Ward to get to it.
Yeah, you wanted to go run as Dark Knight. Well, hope you're ready for a slog, my friend.
And then there's the fact that Red Mage and Samurai are apparently going to start at 50 instead of 30, so...
So yeah, I would imagine to unlock them, you don't have to be, done with Heaven's Word, just 250.
Like 2.55?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last story of A Realm Reborn.
Or it may just be when you hit 50, you can go take the Samurai job quest, or a Red Mage or whatever, and boom, you're a Samurai or a Red Mage.
Well, it really depends on how much they've changed for that one, but...
Yeah. And it also could be interlaced with the main story, like a little bit of the job quests were for Heaven's Word. And if that's the case, you got a while, friend.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see how they do this, because there's a lot of feedback, and it seems mostly negative, but...
Yeah, but at the same time, a lot of the negative feedback is from the, super endgame work for it, and not the more casual players like us.
Yeah, and the whole point would be to get new players into the games in the first place, because you kind of want to do that.
Because, yeah, you can want to keep the new players out all you want, but that will kill your game.
Yeah.
So
it won't kill it immediately, but it'll kill it.
Overall, the pros are definitely going to outweigh the cons, but the cons are just going to be the loudest ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something we're going to have to live with, because let's face it, Square Enix kind of want to keep Final Fantasy XIV and its money around for as long as it can. And if they can get new players into the game, they're going to do it one way or another. So
yeah, especially if they flesh out the Hall of Novice to teach you more of the game. Because it's good.
Yeah,
it's good for early game, but it's still a lot of learn as you go in the middle game.
Yeah, there's definitely going to have to be more of a teaching you along the way kind of thing if they're going to definitely jump you so drastically up there.
If you're going to be, level 60, technically, if you wanted to, could go walk into Alexander Savage.
Yeah. Again, that's the other problem. That's why there's a bunch of negative feedback on this whole thing.
Yeah, you could go do the highest level raid encounter in the last patch just by paying $30 or whatever they decide to make it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Yoshi P has been around long enough with this community to know what he needs to do to take care of everything. To make it not seem so intrusive.
Alright, so I guess final thoughts on the jump potions?
I think it can work. It's definitely going to take a while before everyone gets in, just kind of accepts that it's pretty much going to happen, because otherwise it's going to be too daunting of a task for new players. It's just too much. I hate to say it, but it's too much effort for a lot of people to put in, especially if somebody's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, take any of us who play Final Fantasy XIV right now, take all that effort away, and then make us play the game again from the start as Stormblood is coming out. Would you put the time and effort in for that?
Yeah, like some of my friends I left behind on Hyperion, they want me to come back because they're looking for a new tank, but I don't have the time between the show and raid to go level a character from scratch without even armory bonus.
And that's kind of a major point for the jump potion, is that not a lot of people have the time to put in the investment for it.
Yeah.
So they'd rather pay the money for it instead, which is just as valid as an option as it is, because not everyone can jump in at level 1 and be expected to be 60 by the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. Unless you have no life.
Yeah, unless
That's
they,
always a
especially if they
possibility,
want to have fun with it, because
And it's also important to note this is an optional thing. You know, you're not a. If you want to play the game legit and, you know, like have a kid on some break or whatever, go ahead, level from, 0 to 60. It's
And that's
actually
the
a
other-
really good game.
That's the other thing that tends to be a problem with it, is that people don't realize this is an optional. It's not being forced on everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I still think it's funny the people who are like, I demand compensation.
You're not getting compensation. I can tell you straight
Yeah.
up right now.
Your
nobody's going to
compensation
give you
is you're not paying for the jump potion.
And you've got bragging rights as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
That
that's
armor
what
on my
every-
back, I earned it.
That's what everyone else needs, is some kind of validation for all the stuff they've thrown in to keep it above everyone else's heads.
Mm-hmm. Golix, anything from you or Twilight?
The fact that this kind of thing is such an important issue is one of the reasons why I avoid MMOs.
Join us.
I think he's a little too busy to join us.
Yeah. American Dream, right?
Well, also, I'm not sure I have a computer that could play it well.
You'd be surprised.
True. I guess it's not that new of a game, so. Although the newer parts are.
Not till Stormblood comes out, then upgrade newbie.
Twilight, anything from your camp?
Yeah, I don't see that being that big of a deal. I can understand the complaints, and the more valid complaints about people not knowing what they'll be doing, but people can learn.
Yeah.
And it's
And you're
not that
also
hard.
the one of us who's done the grind recently.
Yeah, I've seen how it can be. And it's
Ogre
not
and I,
that
we're
bad.
salty old vets. We've been through this a long time ago.
You didn't have Palace of the Dead, even though that about drove me crazy.
Oh, yeah. Like, Palace of the Dead helps a lot, but it still doesn't teach you how to play like regular, dungeon crawling does.
Yeah. But yeah, I got nothing against it myself. It's your choice. It's not going to affect me in the long run.
Yeah, again, that's the major other thing, is that it's the people are going, if they're going to do this, they're doing it on their own.
Yeah, it won't prevent bad players. Me and Ogre probably have enough horror stories to write a book on from Duty Finder, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, cast flare on the enemy.
Not that
No.
bad, but...
My recent one was, why isn't the white mage casting protect before we start pulling?
Oh god,
Why
no.
aren't you still casting protect on us? I'm gonna start pulling. And
Why
I
are you
pulled.
casting shell? This enemy doesn't use magic.
No, they do have protect and shell are the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
they merged that now.
But yeah, it's pretty much an inevitability to help keep the game alive.
Mhm.
And you don't have to accept it, but you're gonna have to tolerate it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The ones who jump will get good eventually.
Yeah, like I said, you will learn.
That's the other thing, is you're probably gonna have to help people who jump. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why they have the mentor system,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know how good that is. So
Neither do I.
That's
I'm not even available for it.
it's up in the air anyway. So overall, I think the consensus here is that we see complaints on both sides, and we understand both sides, but it's kind of going to happen. So
Potentially, they haven't confirmed first have Final Fantasy XIV if it is happening or not yet, though. It
yeah,
is under
I
heavy
think they're
consideration.
they're a little hesitant for that, but
Yeah.
I don't see it not being an inevitability.
So I think that's it for this show. If Adam hasn't passed out yet,
Quick, start talking about Pokemon just to make sure he's awake.
I guess I will plug MSP while we're waiting on Adam to roll awake.
It's related anyway.
Coming up next, I'm going to be interviewing Drek and Seabass from the Nest raid group. They made
And Pettyfan, you may have dropped.
Yeah, they married there.
Am I back?
Yeah,
Hello.
I hear you.
All right. Where did I cut off at?
You were
You
just
s-
saying what they were doing, and
Okay.
We are interviewing Drac.
Yeah, Drek and Seabass, they are from the Nest raid group, and they make Final Fantasy XIV, I guess, more comedy videos than, say, a Let's Play.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, they're not raid guides. They're not, oh, this is what it takes to go through a raid. It's literally just guys dicking around.
Yeah, they jump around too much in the
Yeah.
videos. But the videos jump around too much to be a guide.
So yeah, that's coming up next. Anybody know where Adam is?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear you now.
Anyway, right. So if we're all done here,
yep, we're pretty much set.
okay.
Mhm.
All right. So that'll conclude this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Coming up on Sunday, we have reviews of Adventureland. Not sure if the footage issue will be worked out. We have a few days.
I have alternate
And-
methods if needed.
And we're also reviewing Giga Chess, the chess tower defense combination. It's kind of a weird game.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting combination.
Yeah, it works better than you might think. And coming up in the week ahead, so first up on Wednesday, we have Alex Meyer of Shy Snake Games. They're developing a new computer RPG called Spy DNA. And on Thursday, at regular time, 11 a.m., we are having Kai from Frozen Byte. You might know this dev, even if you don't know their name. They're the developer of the Trine series. And
That series.
yeah. And they're releasing their latest game, Has Been Heroes, next week. Let's see. I think I'm trying to think if all platforms are coming out simultaneously, or if like the Switch version is coming in a bit behind. Like, something to do with I'll find out with the research. Anyway, so be sure to stay tuned for MSP and our first interview in a dog's age, really. And until then, I wish you good gaming.